y'all, welcome to my channel. It's Hazel from the Israelite Women's Homestead. So it was another busy day on the farm here. We were doing lots of collecting of plants and flowers and herbs and hanging them up to dry and putting some out in the sun on trays to dry in baskets everywhere. So that's what we were doing today. But in the process, I also have to do some infusions. So I decided to do a video for you guys because I'm doing infusions. So why not just do a video with infusions for you guys? So on my table here, I have my oil here, my grapeseed oil, and let me move my computer over. I have my dandelion leaves, my dandelion flowers, my spearmint leaves, and some empty jars. I'm just gonna move my book over, and some empty jars here with the lids so I can do some infusions for you to show you. And then I have some other infusion that I already did, which I'm going to talk to you about after, so stay tuned for that. And then I have my canola oil here. So I love to infuse with canola oil because when I use canola oil, I can definitely see the color of the oil, and I can see how much plant matter has gotten, like has infused itself into the oil, and you can tell by the oil changing color. So this is why I love to use that. If I use like a oil like extra virgin olive oil, I will not be able to see how much infused it is and how much of the color of the plant has gone into the oil. So I love to see that. And once I notice that, then I'll mix with olive oil, because extra virgin olive oil is my favorite oil to use. And once I make my infusions, then I mix with extra virgin olive oil. So that's what I do. So I have my canola oil here. And infusions are very, very simple. It's nothing hard. It's nothing difficult. It's very simple to do. You can do a cold infusion, which is infusing for 4 to 6 weeks, or you can do a warm infusion, which is using a double boiler. So I'm going to get a pot and I'm going to show you what I mean. So you can use a double boiler system. So you get a pot, you put it on the stove, fill the pot with water, then you put your container inside the pot, and then whatever herb you want to infuse, you put it in here. And then the water is going to boil from the bottom in the pot. You put it on very low fire, it's going to boil, then it's going to infuse the oil. Or you can use a crock pot, and you can just pour your herbs with your oil in the crock pot, and then you can put it on the lowest setting that your crock pot has, and you can leave it there for an hour or two, and that's gonna make an infusion also. But I don't like the heat or the warm method, because I think you lose some of the properties of the plant. I prefer the cold infusion method, so that's what I do. But if you want to do both, you can do both, but my preference is just the cold infusion, just leaving it to infuse 4 to 6 weeks. So that's what I do. So today I'm going to be infusing spearmint leaves and dandelion leaves and flowers. And this is going to be for products, and this is going to be for me because I want to make a salve for cuts and nicks and scratches. My daughter, she seems to be getting lots of cuts and scratch and nicks, so I want to make one for her, and because the one that I have is almost finished. So I'm going to move my oil from there. All you're going to do is take your flour out, how much you want. Now I'm using a very small jar. I'm using like this small jar. Tiny jar, because I don't want a lot, and I'm making a salve. So by the time this is infused, the one that I have will be finished. So I'm just filling up the jar, not a lot, because I'm also going to put some of the leaves in there. And then I'm going to take some of the leaves and I am going to add it also to the jar. And this leaves smell amazing. So I'm just going to fill it up and press it down. Once you press it down, it goes like all the way in. Okay, so I'm going to press it down, cover my jar, and then I'm going to put a label on it. And the reason I'm putting the label now is if you put the label after, the label, it becomes very sticky and it doesn't stick. Where is my label? I had a label. Just 1 minute. Let me get a label. My daughter was here and she took my label. So I couldn't find my label. My daughter was here. So anyways, I'm using Avery. Avery is my go-to for labels, and you can buy any kind of labels, waterproof labels, all kind of labels, glossy labels, all kind of labels. So I'm using this Avery label, which is a circular label. And before, I also use square labels for dry storage. I use that, but today I'm just going to use a circular label because I want to label the top of the jar. And I just take a label out and I'm going to put on the top of my lid. This label may be a little bit too big, but yeah, it's way too big, but it's okay. So this label is way too big for my jar, so I'll have to put the label on once the jar is closed. Okay, so right, so this is the label for the jar, and I'm going to take that out. Okay, so I put my label on because if oil gets onto it, then it doesn't stick. And now all I'm going to do is pour my canola oil over the dandelion leaves and flower, and there are going to be some bubbles coming up. That's okay, it's just settling itself. And there it is. You fill it all the way up to the neck, because by the time it settles, you're going to need a little bit more. So I just give it a gentle shake. Sometimes I use a chopstick to push it down, but today I don't really need it. When it's a bigger jar, I push it down with a chopstick, but when it's a smaller jar, I don't need it. And all you need to do is just close it up. Close it up, and then you write on it. Dandelion flowers, and stems and leaves, and then you put the date on it, and that's it. So you know exactly when it's ready. So I label it, I have my date on it, and I know when I have to. And then you just put it in a cool, dry place to wait for however long you want it. So you could, between 3 to 6 weeks is good. Anytime between there. You could do it for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, however long you want. That's up to you. My max is usually 4 weeks, so that's what it is. And then I am also going to do some spearmint, but the spearmint, I need a lot of it. So I have different kinds of mint, and it's very important that you label the exact jar. So this is spearmint, and I have chocolate milk mint, and I have other kinds of mint. This smells amazing, amazing, amazing. So I want to do a double infusion with this mint, so I'm going to do half now, and then in 3 weeks I'm going to come back, remove it, and do a second infusion, because I want it to be really, really strong and potent, because I am using this for skincare, and I also want to get like 4 ounces to use for different recipes that I like to make. So I like to make certain desserts and stuff using the mint, and once it's flavored, it's really, really minty. Or if you want to make toothpaste or something like that, that is also great to use. Or if you want to rinse, make a mouth oil pulling, you can also infuse that. So today I am going to do that. So First, I'm going to put my label because just in case any oil or something get onto my jar, I want it to be very sticky. So I put my label on first, and now again I am going to pour my canola oil in there. And this one I'm going to fill it up all the way to the neck of the bottle, but not completely, because I'm going to strain this out and I'm going to do in 3 weeks, and then I'm going to add more mint leaves in there. So I don't want to put it all the way to the top. Usually when you're doing an infusion, you want to do it all the way to the top, but because I'm doing a double infusion, I'm not doing it like this. So just give it a gentle shake. When I do the second infusion, I'm going to fill it up all the way to the top. So then I'm going to put a label on it, which is going to be mint infusion, mint leaves, and then I'm going to put the date on it again and the year. And that's it. Okay, you have your date, and so you know, so you can check 3 weeks from now or 4 weeks from now or 5 weeks from now, however long you want it to infuse. Now I have my grapeseed oil here because I'm going to do another infusion of all 3 together, the leaves, the stem, and the mint leaves, a small infusion like this size, because I also want to make a cream for myself and my kids. So I'm going to do that later because it's just the same thing, infusion, and I'm not just going to be infusing things like that because it's just boring. But anyway, so I want to show you guys that. But basically you get the gist of what I'm doing, of the infusion and what it's for and how it's done. So I don't need to explain that to you no more. But the next thing I want to talk about is the importance of labeling when you infuse your things. So you see those jars here, how faded the labels are. I hope you can see that. The labels are very, very faded. And this is lavender here, infused in canola oil. And it's a good thing I know what lavender look like, because I wouldn't know exactly what's in the jar, because when it's infused like that, it also look like clingers, so it can be mistaken. But I use a label that I bought in the dollar store, which was a lot of labels in it. It was like, I think like 60 labels, is like $1, and I'm like, okay, I'm just labeling jars with it. And I put these labels on, and then as soon as I a little bit of oil got onto it, it just rubbed off. So it's very important that you use a good quality paper when you're doing labels, because then you label something and you don't know what's in it. And the same thing happened here. This is clingers and rose hips and lavender in there, and it's the same thing. Actually I had 3 labels on it because I made some notes for this jar, and look at it. It's all like, you can hardly see what's in it, like the labeling itself. So be very careful when you're labeling, because you don't want to mix things up. And if you're making products for people, you want to make sure that the right product is in the jar and you're not putting something else in products that you don't even know, you don't remember what the ingredient is in the jar. So be careful with that. So these 2 jars, I have to relabel them because this is what happened. You need to invest in good quality paper, and this is paper, this Avery paper. It's waterproof, and if anything fall on it, oil or whatever, it doesn't come off and it doesn't look like this. So just be mindful of that when you're doing infusions. So let's put that here. And finally, I'm going to tell you guys why I use dandelion flowers and mint, the purpose of it. So first of all, dandelion flowers is great to use because it's great for inflammation. It helps to relieve pain. So if you have a bee sting or something, and you make a dandelion salve and you put on it, it's gonna make the swelling go down because it's good for inflammation. and it's gonna help the swelling to go down, and it's gonna heal the wound very quickly. And if it's inflamed and swollen, it's gonna bring the swelling down. Another thing is, dandelion contains a lot of vitamins and minerals, which is usually in their root. But when the dandelion it's like when it flowers, or when the leaves has gotten bigger, it pushes some of that minerals and that vitamins up to the leaves and to the flowers. So that's a good time to pick the dandelion leaves and the dandelion flowers when the leaves have grown like a little big, and when the flowers has blossomed and they're wide open. So that's the time when it has the most amount of the minerals and stuff that it had pushed up from the root to give to the flowers and to the leaves. And then later on in the year, when it's like spring and the dandelions has no flowers and they're kind of tough and not good to eat anymore, the leaves, then all the nutrients and vitamins and minerals goes down to the root, and then you can pull them. Now is a good time to pull the dandelion root up, and then all the minerals are in the root, and then you can also use the roots as an infusion to make your product. So in fall, in September, I'll be just digging up a lot of dandelions and getting the root, wash them very clean and dehydrate them and use them also in there. And dandelion stems and the flowers in an infusion is very calming. It gives a very calming effect. So example, if you have a rash or something and it's itchy and scratchy and you put a dandelion salve on it, it's going to stop that itching and it's going to calm the skin down. So that's a good way to use dandelion. And that's the reason why I am using dandelion, because of all these various functions that it has, the dandelion. So now we're going to move on to the mint leaves. And why do I use mint leaves? And I use the leaves and the stems also, because both the leaves and the stems have medicinal value. So you don't want to just use the leaves, you want to use both. So the mint is an astringent, and so that means that if you have a cut or you have a mild infection from a bruise or a sting or something, you use this in a salve or in an oil or something, it's gonna help to heal the wound and make the wound better. It's really great for cuts and bruises and abrasions and rashes. Again, it soothes the rash, it takes away the itching. If you get a small wound, you can just coat it in the oil or coat it with the salve that you make, and then just cover it with a cloth, usually a cotton cloth, and just leave it there. And then the oil is going to seep into the skin and it's going to do its magic, and it's going to help the wound to get better. Mint is also antibacterial. So any bacteria or anything that any bacteria that is not supposed to be there, when you put that mint salve or that mint oil on it, it's gonna get rid of it. But it cannot be like a deep wound that is infected or something. It has to be like a mild wound where you get a scratch or a scrape or something. Your cat may scratch you, or you got caught on a branch or something while you're walking somewhere. It has to be like mild wound. It's not for deep wound. So be careful with that. Not for very deep wound. It has to be mild abrasions and mild wounds. Mint oil is also great for the hair. It helps to stimulate your follicles in your hair follicles, and this is gonna make so mint is great for hair. It's very awesome for cuts and abrasions and wound. Mint is antibacterial. It's also astringent, and mint is just an awesome plant to use. And mint helps with hair growth. It stimulates the hair follicles, which improve your hair growth. So as the follicles get stimulated, obviously they get more healthy and they push upwards, and obviously your hair is going to get longer because the follicle pushes the hair up, so it makes your hair grow longer. So that's what the mint does. That's why when you use mint, anything minty, it has that tingly feeling. So you get that, it makes your hair tingle or it makes your scalp tingle, and then it stimulates the follicles. And so this is what helps hair growth. So this mint infusion, this mint oil is great for making hot oil treatments. So if you want to have a hot oil treatment, you warm this just warm to the touch of your finger, and once it's warm enough, then you put it all over your hair, and then you put a cap on, and you leave it for 15-20 minutes or however long you want to leave it, and then you rinse it out, or you put your shampoo and then you conditioner or whatever you use to wash your hair, and you just rinse that out. And it's a great conditioner for the hair because it helps the hair to retain moisture, and it helps the hair to become shiny, and it just does awesome for the hair. I love this mint oil for my hair, and I just use it even on my skin. I use it on my skin. I use it in so much different things, in salves and all kind of things. But one other thing that you can use that mint oil for is for food and for flavoring. So this is great for cooking. It is great in stir fries. You can use it to flavor, like if you're making a dessert or any stuff that I want that mint, that deep mint flavoring. But you'll have to do like three infusions. So you do the first one and you strain out the leaves, and you do a second infusion and you do a third infusion. Then it's going to be really minty. One infusion doesn't really make it minty. The more infusions you do with the same oil, so you pour out the contents of this first leaves, and then you get rid of the leaves, and then you use the same oil, and you just keep adding leaves, and eventually becomes very minty. So that's the way it is. So guys, here is all the functions and the benefits of those oils, and that is the reason why I use them. And as I said before in my previous video, make sure you do your research on things before you use them. Make sure you know the value, the benefits, the side effects, and all those stuff on things before you use them. And make sure that you're not taking any medications that's gonna counteract with these things. So just be very careful when you use plants, because plants is awesome and great to use, but it must be used in the right dosage, and it must be used properly. And when you're using plants, you must be educated about the plant before you start to use it, because plants also are very potent, and if you're a person who is taking medication, it can counteract with your medication and it can cause you a problem. But if you're a healthy person and you're not taking medication and stuff like that, you may be able to take certain stuff and you may not have side effects as somebody who's taking medication. But still, just be careful when you're using herbs, and make sure you know the properties, all the properties of it, before you make a decision to use it. And make sure you do your research, lots of research, library, books, peer reviews, all kind of things before you use things. And when you decide to use a herb or a plant or something like that, make sure that you try it in a small quantity first to make sure that you don't have a reaction to it, or you don't have a big, great side effect that's going to cause you a major issue. If you're going to start using an oil, make sure you test some on a small part of your body, like the inside of your hand. If you're going to make a salve, maybe you could test it on your ankles or something before you put it all over your body. Just go rub yourself with it, okay? So please don't do stuff like that, because you may not know when you're going to have an allergic reaction to something. So that's the video for today. If you want to see any more videos on infusions, definitely leave a comment in the bottom. Once these things are finished infusing, I will come back with a video showing you exactly how I make my salve, on what I put in the salve once this is done infusing. So thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next video. Ciao.